distinguished guest right now with me. So for me, I'm MOG Lopez, the founder of and CEO of Revastack.com, or a property technology startup. And ever since I think 2019, we have been organizing the PropTech event for the Philippine Startup Week. We started online, and last year we did a community event also in Makati, and this year is the first PropTech community event here in Cebu. So without further ado, let me talk about the smart city framework that I was talking about. So this should also be a blueprint that will address the unique urban challenges that we are seeing and looking for the opportunities for us. We will be able to create resilient cities, adaptable and future-proof. And our hope is actually to inspire a movement. Later on, we're going to talk about a lot from smart buildings to smart mobility, to future of work, to food security and sustainability, and all of these efforts. Again, let me introduce formally for this panel. So our first panel speaker, is a devoted tech enthusiast who earned his degree in computer science in the University of San Carlos. He is the visionary founder of Fine Upgrades Computer and Gadgets Corp, a company established 16 years ago with a mission to enhance the lives of Filipinos through cutting-edge technology. And currently, he is championing the adoption of IoT and automation technologies, believing in this advancement will only boost the country's competitiveness, but also contribute to a greener and more sustainable world. So please welcome Mr. Ryan Raymond Yu.
Thank you, again. Good afternoon, everybody. I think I have a slide here. It's 25 slides. I'll try to make it quick and short and fast. So we're going to talk about reimagining urban living, the smart city vision. So OJ was right. We discussed earlier that the problem that we see now is everybody wants to go smart, but they really don't know how. And smart for them, for others, putting a CCTV system, I'm very smart. Buying a smartphone, I'm very smart. But in a sense, it's true. So let me start. So life is complicated. As we humans make mistakes, it will cause us to lose precious time and money. This is actually where everything starts. As we go on our daily lives, we have each and every one of us has our own problem. We think of things that we need to do every day, and these are the things that we need to solve before the day ends so that our stress will go away. If we can't solve these problems, they'll be lingering until our hair turns white, until we die, and that's it. So, what we do when we find these problems is we find solutions for them. Back in the day, cavemen actually had problems too, right? They were born out of the world, naked, coming out. What do I do with my life? Eat. And then they learn to build fire, they learn to carve tools, they learn to hunt. For me, in those days, those were the tech. They needed, this is a nice rock, this is my iPhone. Look at my iPhone, look at my, this guy has a smaller tool than me, I want that. They built, and that's how they innovated, right? Would you guys agree? Yes. So as time passed on, over the years, here we are today, right, with all our technology. So some examples of this are, in man's search to improve inefficiency in cleaning, from brooms, we now have robot vacuum cleaners that are very, very good at what they do already. From the old Nokia, who knows what model this is? 310. Oh, 310. Now we have the IP16 or whatever Android phone you have. It's very powerful, right? Then, this one, I love this example because this is actually one of the greatest stories about being disrupted. This is a Kodak camera. And a Kodak camera failed to adapt the digital technology technology, and now we're all using digital cameras or the cameras that are on your phone. There's a Sony Alpha here, right? Next, we have robots. So when I made this slide in 2018, robots are not yet there. And then when I saw it again today, just to prepare for this talk, oh, that can be Optimus. You know who Optimus is, right? Tesla's robot. And this is going to become a reality already. Right? Robots that help us in our daily lives for things that we need help with. Right? So because of all of these, we now have technology that will help us improve efficiency, productivity, convenience, safety, security, and of course, save us money. We are actually in the automation revolution using IoT. Okay? So a smart city uses IoT technology and data analytics to create a sustainable, efficient, and livable urban environment. So for me, smart is automation. When you say smart, I want to automate something for you because I want the answer to be solved. I want the problem to be solved, right? Because if it's just a control that I give you, like for example, this is a Verde certified building when I entered down below. And then I saw all those signs on the wall that they're more efficient in water consumption, and this and that. But if you are familiar with the Verde or LEED certifications, on the control side, those are just policies that they make. But if the person cannot implement those policies, because those policies are being implemented by people. So I'm going to write a new regulation. If there's nobody on that hallway, make sure to turn the light off. And they ask a person, the engineering department, to go all over the building to do that, right? But we all know that we are humans. We forget, and that's how we make mistakes, right? So automation for me is the answer. Next. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the most important things of a smart city. So it's efficient. It has to be efficient in resource management. Smart transportation, I think somebody's going to tackle that today, which is very good. And public safety, of course, is very important in smart city. And environmental monitoring, which is going to be tackled a little bit in the farming part also later. Yeah. So those are the key essentials of a smart city. So how can IoT, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the brand that I carry and how we are doing our part to help doing automation solutions for the country. Since you can't hear it, I'm just going to define what it is. It's showing you how to live a smart life in your home. Because that's where we started. We started off by automating the home, because that's what everybody wanted. We wanted to be Iron Man, we wanted to do voice commands, we wanted to be, have a home that can be controlled with everything. So the brand that we carry is compatible with all the 3 voice command systems. It has all the bells and whistles. But later on in 2019, apart from doing all the cool stuff that can happen to you, we went into heavy automation. And these automation products help us solve the problems. Not only that, we realize that the problems that we have in the home is the same problem that this office has. It's the same problem that that building over there has. It's the same problem that that farm over there, that warehouse, every type of space has the same problem. And this is where property managers come in, right? So this building, most likely is managed by a property management team. A property management team would be comprised of several engineers and people to get information from any building around that they own around the country, right? So when I said automation, this is where this brand comes in. And what we love about the brand that we carry is when I started researching about IoT in 2015, I started testing, I started going outside, testing different brands from different countries. What we needed to make sure was this brand was fit for the Philippines, which is we had bad internet connection, or no internet connection, or failed internet connection. And of course, the education of people, we were still a little behind then. So with this brand, LifeSmart, the brand that we carry, it works, being an Internet of Things product, it works without internet. That's the funny thing. I always say that because everybody always asks us, what happens when the internet goes down? And that's not a funny question, that's a very important question because a lot of the brands out there right now are all Wi-Fi and internet dependent. And when the internet fails and you can't log in your app, that's it. No more CCTV, no more doorbell, no more video doorbell in the house. That fails when there's no more internet. We can look at Slingerion's video about his smartphone, and these were his problems. His doorbell would not work because his internet was already weak. And that was it, right? So here, we make sure that everything works even without the need of internet. The local functionality of everything still works. So we can create different AIs within our system, and of course, it's an award-winning brand, it's trusted globally, and it's already implemented in Japan, Saudi Arabia, US, Europe, and over several countries globally. Next. So, the most important part is they created a wireless protocol called COSS. So most of the third-party brands you find outside are using either a Zigbee protocol that is using the Tuya third-party software. Some of you are familiar with IoT. Tuya is like a third-party app being made so that all these individual other factories can use that app. But LifeSmart, like Apple, made their own app, made their own communications protocol to have their own ecosystem to make sure that everything works even when the internet is down. Everything will work and talk with each other, all these devices. And it has also opened its platform to accept Zigbee devices, to accept third-party devices. So hindi sila madamot. They opened up their platform to be able to communicate with all these other brands as well. And of course, if you're up to spec with the current protocols, you probably heard of Matter. So they are also Matter compatible. So those were just a little bit of the tech side, so you will understand why we chose this brand, and we wanted to make sure that it fits our requirements in the Philippines. It's also Lola proof. It's also Lola proof. It's also Yaya proof. Because everybody implementing this in their smart home. Or what if si Papa, si Lola, si Lolo, there's always that manual control. We don't get rid of the manual control to make sure that you can have that feel, you can have that operation. When everything fails, I'll go there, I'll switch the light on. Right? So all of that will provide you convenience. Of course, if you are on a wheelchair, or you're a senior citizen in your room, you're lying down, and you want to sleep already. Before you call, Dong, halika rito, isirado dos, kuhaan, ikuha ko dito, di ba? I'm sure if we have seniors in the house, we know that feeling, right? I'm not a senior, but my wife would do that to me. Dong, go downstairs, check if all the windows are closed. Before we go to sleep, I would do that in the first part of my marriage before I did LifeSmart. So it provides convenience. At one press or one voice command, everything in this room will act upon itself. When I say meeting time, all these lights will turn off, projector will turn on, and all of that. That's the convenient part. Imagine that for a senior citizen. Imagine that for a disabled person. Imagine that for somebody in the hospital. Imagine that for for kids who cannot reach the light switches. Life just becomes more convenient. Then there's the safety and security feature. So the safety and security is when you put our products in the doors and windows of your house, you will know at any given time if a door opens or closes. And it tells our cameras to take a snapshot so you know who came in. Because that's always our question. If all of you, I assume you have a house and you're living there, security is always something that we worry about. No?
Yeah.
We can't afford to buy to put a the security guard because the security guard costs what? 15,000 per 8 hours. So that's 8 hours. So if you have 24-hour guards, that's 30,000 a month for 1 year, right? And there's only one of them. There's one car in front. So a problem in the subdivision that we worked on was they had 60 guards in their subdivision, but they still got a lot of theft happening inside the subdivision. And then they keep on fighting with the guard. The problem here is, what can the guard really do when the guard can't enter your house? They're just walking around, even if they roam every minute around, they will never know because the kawatan, the thief, is climbing in from your backyard, right? So what you need to do is to put a security system that will report to the guard. So if somebody goes in your back door at that 2 a.m. in the morning, it will notify the security guard, and the guard can go to your house or call you and check if there has been a trespass door in your house, right? So that for me is an automation system, and that's what we do. And in fact, we've already partnered with the PNP in Davao City. So moving here, when all of this is being done in your home, security, control, energy efficiency, safety and convenience, the next thing to propel this information and make it something helpful for a smart city is to forward that data to government institutions. So like we did, and we partnered with the PNP in Davao, they agreed that if your house number 101 in Maria Luisa, there is a security breach, it will send a notification directly to the PNP, and the PNP can directly deploy their team to your house. So that, for me, is what makes a smart city. Same thing for smoke. Can you imagine if you just put if you go over here, you'll probably see Barangay Luz or whatever there, right? And that is like a fire hazard. You see all those light materials there in the middle of the city, right? So what if we deploy temperature sensors? I'm not gonna say smoke sensors. You know why? Smoke is already a result of fire. The fire is already there, right? You've already lessened the response time or the reaction time because the fire is already there. But what if these temperature sensors constantly detect the temperature and there's already an alert that if they go over 45 degrees, they will start popping up on the monitoring system of the BFP or the barangay hall? Then the barangay hall can instantly go and check what's going on, what's causing the temperature rise in these areas, and they can respond accordingly even before the accident has happened. So forwarding all this data to the right institution, the energy efficiency to DNR, temperature, humidity, brightness, all of these sensors can be forwarded to the right agencies that will give you the solutions needed for a smart city. So you will now benefit. For cities, optimize resources, they use they have lower crime rates, better environmental quality, improved infrastructure and efficiency. For residents, of course, we have enhanced safety, convenience, lower utility costs, and healthier living environments. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker or part of the panel is the CEO of Good Transport Solutions. So we were talking about smart mobility earlier, and also the CEO of Good Apps, with over 2 decades of experience spanning technologies, from telco, financial services to technology management, and a very respected leader for his strategic insight and innovative thinking. Throughout his career, he has not only driven substantial growth and efficiency within organizations, but has also successfully made exits in industries like pharma and software development. As startups, that's what we like, we can exit. So let's learn that. No, his expertise covers everything from mobile app development to area networking and cloud deployments. So we're very fortunate to have him here. No, please welcome Brezhnev Tero.
Anyway, well, siguro ako na-mention ni OG is kung sa kadaghan ng sunog. So, may nagkanog na fail. Ay kamay nga successful pero daghan sila fail. So, that's usually the life of a startup or an entrepreneur. Anyway, right now, my company, Good Transport Solutions Inc. We're involved in the transport mobility solutions. Maybe you're familiar with the PUBMP or the Public Utility Vehicle Modernization Program. Right now it's called PTMP or the Public Transport Modernization Program. You can see mga modern jeeps. So that's basically where we are in. Here in Cebu, we are deployed in Mandawi Transport Cooperative, and we recently transferred the Lahore Apas Transport Cooperative, and we have also ongoing deployment in Iowa Transport. Then last month we deployed also one in Bacolod. We are also a partner of Visa, so siguro mga gamay, we're the first in the country to be able to accept Visa, MasterCard, GCash payments. So talaga mga challenge, but well, it's one of our claim to fame na we are recognized in that area. So we already did 2 launches. One was in Cebu, the last recent one was in Bacolod. So in relation to the topic on smart city, siguro ako mapakita is more of this. This is our live feed from our commuter transport map. So it's more like a Waze for commuters. So you can view it, you can click in relation to your point of preference. So makita niyo kung ano yung mga bus na coming. And we are going to deploy this. It's available on the web. We're going to have a mobile version later. But in relation to the smart city concept, we're going to deploy this with Mandawi Transport. So we have a coming MOA signing is Mandawi LGU. We have a MOA signing is coming Friday. So what we will do is we will be installing TVs, 40-50 inches on each bus stops. Then it will have some sort of a voiceover. So when the bus is near the bus stop, it will say bus number 12 is arriving in 2 minutes, something like that. So the tech is already there, it's already available. So we just have to put it on the bus stop. But behind the scene, we can only do it if we have the bus operators signing up to our service. So we're the one that's providing the back-end solution from the POS terminals to the GPS connection and the other related stuff. So maybe I can show you the inside of how it looks like on the back end. So this is a dashboard of a typical command center of the operator. So in one glance, you will be able to see what's happening, how many buses are active, how many passengers for the day, for the month. You can also view graphical reports so that you can determine if there is a growing movement. So Then each bus, you can also track, like you just click on the old buses. Then each, siguro better if, okay ba, we can turn off the lights para you can see better. In one glance, makita nyo tayo kung pilay revenue, pilay gusto sa POS, pilay potential na ikupit sa conductor. And would you believe, ang per bus, based sa among experience, it's between 2 to 4,000 a day. Ang kupiton. So, ano na siya,
Standard.
yeah, standard. Yeah. When we went to other areas, same each other, not consistent.
Per bus?
Per bus per day. That's per bus per day. So we're even joking our mga devs na tingnan mo yung conductor ng mga hindi na kaya na. So actually that's the hard reality with a challenge with people on the ground who are working for transport. Easy will come attempt because you handle cash. That's why with our recent partnership with Visa and JHL, we're slowly moving toward that. But I think it's going to take time because people are used to cash. So, although I just learned because we're also a fintech company, so we're registered with BSP, we're operator of payment system. I thought before that the penetration was only 3 to 6% or 7%. That was only credit card. The penetration of Visa and MasterCard in the country is around 60%. So almost everyone, if you can observe, payroll, ATM. So that's most of them are part of the Visa network or BancNet. Most say rails with Visa and MasterCard. So hopefully with that information, we can, with our also deployment sa terminals, we can help transition to the more digital way of payments to hopefully to minimize. Here with our system, the operator can view in real time the buses. So in real time, pwede din mo siya makita ang bus. Then you can view kung nag-issue na siya ticket, kung 15 minutes o siya nag-issue. So the color will change. Kanang blue, that means kung ano siya. Kanang nag-issue siya o ticket in 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, mo change that to green, then to yellow for 30, then 1 hour is orange. Then you can click each one to know more details. So, with the speed, kasi siya ganda siya. So, pwede i-click lang. Just click. So, you will see the speed, you estimated passengers in the bus. Later, maybe we will be offering a take short distance online booking. Mas magigay na. But it will be possible in the future. Here, the data you can see from if there's available signal, there's GPS, if your CCTV is counting the battery level, so all information are logged on the system. Then again, I remember this is Smart City pala. One of the key features there is go to historical check. Is we can view the heat map of the concentration kung asa ang mga passengers. Just pick one, then go to time maps. So here, our backend can actually view kung asa ang concentration sa passenger in relation to the time. Kung let's say you want to view from 6 to 10, this is for around 45 buses. So in just, siguro let me share, in just 2 weeks we were able to improve their collection by 1,000
Wow, thank you, Bres. So, yun na, explanation karon na live demo, no? Detail, and then, again, brings a lot of value, no? Document na lang to, so we can actually review all this. So, right now, do we have any questions from the audience, no? Before I would actually ask you maybe a couple of questions, and then we can go to the next panel. But you're actually seeing that the technology is already existing, no? I guess it's a different topic if we talk about adoption.
Is there, I guess that's going to be the technology, like where a passenger gets on and gets off. Like they'll have to, is it the intention they would swipe when they get on and swipe when they get off so they know how much they're getting charged? Is that right?
Yes. The user journey or passenger assistant officer, medyo social ng gamay. It's actually the conductor. So, that's the new term now, power. Yeah, so they're carrying a terminal wherein they can input the from and to. And from the from and to, it will make a computation. But this is coming from LTFRB per matrix. So it will automatically compute if you would like to apply discount for senior, for disabled, or students, you can apply. And once
My question is, or rather, it's more of a perspective on a lens from a planner point of view, or for my view as an architect. Because normally, when I see bus, or when you go to outside cities, there is always an aspect of when there's a bus, there should be a bus stop. There should be a designated bus stop. So when you go to other countries, they really have these assigned places. Because in my opinion, this is not to disrespect, but then as a commuter for us, every day we go to work, and then seeing how our city still has an issue with regards to the whole planning. So it seems like when we see these things, we just see it like this is not to offend, but then there's just quite a concern. Like it's just a jeepney with aircon. My question is that how are you able to collaborate with the government? Because especially when I saw your first slide, I saw the words BRT, right? I saw the words bus, BRT. And then this project, this has been my thesis way back 8 years ago. So it's more on the focus of addressing. This is more of probably a more public issue. It's not really more of a tech side of things. But my question is that how is it that you can help push this idea that you're selling into the whole framework of the whole planning of the city? Will it improve rather than it just become like in Bisag Asa Ramos stop ang job bus? That's my question, and I thank you for sharing.
thank you, architect. Total point of view, like me as the group family, the group idea create or something, sulit siya ba from hindi siya one solution that will address all of this.
What are the things that you saw in your practice in automating buildings and homes, and how can we integrate this together as a city? And is there a possibility? Is there a timeline? Are there trends and technologies we can look into to start this movement?
Thank you, Ojino. Well, I believe the first target is really the safety and security. This will be the easiest to implement because the data is already there, the infrastructure is already there. All we need to do is to connect and forward the data to the responding team. That's it. So if DNP and PNP in Cebu will come out of their shell of the big sea and just open their eyes to really help the city. It was very sad when I had a meeting with the BFP here. When I went there, I'm not going to mention any location or something, but when I went there, they did not have any smoke sensors in the BFP itself, the fire station. And I was very concerned because when we partnered with the BFP in Davao, we built a very high-tech fire station, and they were very happy that they themselves are now using a smart building for any triggers and reactions. It's an energy-saving building now for them. It reports any changes in temperature, which will allow them to react, as I mentioned. But here, there seems to be something covering them up. So once that shell is cracked and it's open and we can link with them, all our existing clients right now, which are adding by the day in terms of houses, they can just have the option to throw that information to the responding team, and they will be able to respond to any security or safety fire hazards. So, an example of that is, why would a building burn? A whole mall. I don't want to mention the names of the mall, but a very high-end mall in Ayala, 6 stories. Why would it burn down? And a fire started in one warehouse like this, somewhere here. Then it's supposed to be equipped with already the high-tech, as an architect, it has an FDAS system, sprinklers, they spent a lot on it. But how can the accident still happen? Because these systems that are implemented still require humans. Smart system, when smoke sensor of room 401 or 701 or temperature increases in room 701, it sends it to your highly paid managers instantly. And it is matched right away with a snapshot or a video of that area instantly in real time. So this kind of information can be forwarded to the BFP, and they will know, there's a fire is about to start or a fire is starting. For one, they can easily run to the location. No longer, because when there's a fire, you still hear this word because I know I have a friend who's a fireman. They still use and hear this line. Asa na pinasunog? Pangitaan, aso. It's still there. They still use it. Pangitaan ng aso. Asa ang aso na dito ang sunog? Because, of course, the FDAS panel is down there. They're already up here. They can't call, tanawa ko na sa panel, asa itong room ang sunog. There's no more time for that. Everybody's in panic, everybody's running. But if you have the smartest people knowing where it is, I'm sure the response will be faster. And that's what we need to do first, to connect it to the BFP and PNP. We'll have a more secure and safer city. Thank you.
Like that, so for Chris, like, is that the best way that we can allocate our resources towards the BRT, or it's like the one that you're doing right now is more efficient?
Sometimes gusto sabing startup ka, right? You have limited resources. So, since di ka paano, wala kayo nilapit. And by the way, regarding BRT, the name of our service is BRT, BRTS. It started because my initial is BRT. So when I learned the BRT would now bus rapid transit. Our BRT solution is called bus revenue tracker. Comparative lang kayo self-serving, and I will be introduced like any BRT sa takong initial. So yung tayo ng BRTS just to differentiate.
Again, guys, thank you so much. Let's have a round of applause for both Ryan and Resnet for helping us. Thank you so much.
Hey, okay, go ahead.
He's a very interesting person and a very interesting startup. based in UP. So I want to call Neil. Si Jojo. So I want to call Jojo and founder of Arca. No? So they are a agri-tech company, also based here in Cebu. So they will be talking more about. Sige.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are not only a technology company, but actually a platform, agriculture platform. So what we are currently addressing is the problem of food insecurity. So if you don't know this, Gravica Competitive of Philippines, we are the most food insecure country in Southeast Asia. Yeah, yay. We are third in the whole of Asia. And being an agricultural land, it's funny that we already overtook China in terms of importing rice. So if you compare the size in terms of geography and population, China versus Philippines, imagine we are the number one importer now of rice. Compared to China, we overtook China already, and yet we are still having problems when it comes to food. And if you can also relate, food insecurity is tied to all these problems: poverty, unemployment, malnutrition, rising food prices, mga crop failures pa tayo because of climate change, then marginalization of the poor, and sometimes we equate poor people to taga-bukid or farmers. No? So this is from the United Nations. This is how food insecure we are. And of course, Region 7, Cebu, very competitive. Number 4 sa that. Very food insecure. Here, next slide please. So, what we did, this article did not come up with just because of an idea. We started with looking at the problem because if you can observe, the problem in food has always been there. People just didn't want to think about it as a problem. Diba? Even years before, you can think na sinagsak ng presyo, sa mga palito nun, okay lang, tukol pa sa gasolina. We always blame something else for the problem of food. No, we didn't look at it as a problem really. So, in our end, we found out that there are 4 pillars that we need to focus on to solve the problem of food insecurity. So, number 1, it needs to have community development and empowerment. No, because farming is not a one-man job. It needs a community for it to work. Even in the ancient times, no, when the Amazonians discovered mga agriculture, even mga Egyptians, they always worked as a community to feed everybody, not as an individual feeding themselves only. No? Then, of course, application of technology. Then, isutan kayo i-pag-move ang usa ka community without money. So, there needs to be transactions. There needs to be a business involved. And of course, the last but not the least, with the environment right now, like before, you can predict when the summer is and when the rainy season is. Karon, with the climate change, you don't know anymore. You say it's summer, but it's raining. You say it's rainy season, but it's very hot. So, we need to start controlling the environment. So, in controlling the environment, so this is what we did. This is in Lusaran, Cebu City. Okay, sa Lusaran, we built these shelters. This is to shield our farmers and our crops from too much heat and too much rain. Now, a lot of people automatically will say that yes, okay, too much heat, but the plants need rain, it needs water, right? Actually, the rain is more deadlier than the heat. Because when there's heat, let's say for example, a few months ago, di ba nata El Nino? if you had water, you just water the plants. The plants will live. If you had water, diba? But what if there's too much rain? A full day of rain will already kill crops. So, if you can imagine, some farmers, madismaya sila when it's rainy season. Not because nga hindi sila kapananon, it's because it will kill their crops literally. Unlike na kung init lang, just water it. Pero pag crops, sa iyong payungan, lisod na. Di ba? So, this is a version of payong. No? So, they say that greenhouse, well, not necessarily, pero okay. Shield na siya, but on the side there's nets. So, air can flow through, in and out. So, because of that, our farmers are undisturbed. They can work day in, day out. Our plants are undisturbed. Then, we can predict harvest. Unlike right now, when you plant in an open field with no shield, no shelter, it's more of a gamble already. Because you may be, let's say you're planting corn, which is very common here sa Cebu. You're planting corn, you harvest in 2.5 months. Okay, in 2 months. Then, you're saying, next week, harvest na to. And then today, it rains for 3 consecutive days. Forget your harvest next week. There will be no harvest. Iiway ka ng punan mo. Okay, so, with all this, we are turning them into smart shelters because we're trying to set up multiple farms all over, no? And each farm alone is very big. What you see there, that's 1 hectare of land already. Okay, so, how do we work, as a business to make sure that it runs on its own? So, unlike traditional farming, as a farmer, you plant kung ano sa'yo ganahan, then sell what you harvest. In our end, we start with the demand. We know our customers first, then we assign the demand, whatever crops, to grow to a farmer, then it being harvested, being processed by a community, then delivered by a logistics partner. So, nga na siya straightforward. So, this is an example of how we gather data from our customers. So, we have a team that goes to restaurants, hotels, resorts, talking to the chefs, how much do you need on a per weekly basis? How many kilos of carrots? How many kilos of potato? How many kilos of cabbages? No? With all this data, we can tally them up. Now we know how many plants we actually need to plant. So it's not like you have 1 hectare of land, okay. Cabbages, 1 hectare. No, it's not that. Because what are you going to do with the excess cabbage? It's going to waste. So next please. So from there, we make contracts with our customers. So right now, we serve a lot of mga restaurants here in Cebu City alone pa lang. So I'm pretty sure you're familiar with some of our restaurants we're serving like Abaka, Pato. No? So whatever we need there, it comes from us. Okay? So we make contracts with them that we serve them on a weekly basis. So here our farmers are able to work, rain or shine. No? And not only that, because of how we approach things, we are attracting a new generation of farmers. So if you go to the bukid, you'll see siguro mga farmers, tikulang na, older generations na. But here, because of how we do things, we're starting to attract a new generation of farmers. Now we have farmers who's less than 20 years old, working, feeding their family. And yes, it's a bukid. As early as 16, nasa family. They have kids already. They start very young. Then after harvesting, this is how we deliver our products to our customers. Naka-crates siya. So it was clean, it looks nice, and it looks very fresh. So what have we accomplished so far? So we started 2022, we got registered about January. That's when we started doing business already. So from January 2023 to October 2024, we were able to develop 3 communities already working with us. Farming communities, processing communities, all cooperatives registered CDA, and they have business permits already. No? Self-governing na po sila. Meaning, with all these people involved, they have their own governance sa ilang community. They have a president, they have a chairman, they have a secretary, a treasurer. So they now protect their own communities and their own interests. Then we've created more than 100 plus jobs already because of this. We produced more than 70 tons of food already in less than 2 years. And not only that, we managed to eliminate 20 tons of waste, plus tons of waste. So what do we mean by this? So, who here cooks? Who cooks? Did you guys use garlic?
Yes.
Yeah? Also, it has a garlic. Just an example. You have to peel it, right? On our customers, when they receive the garlic, it's peeled already. You just slice it right there and use it. So these peels, if you can imagine, if you're in the kitchen, this goes to waste. Diba? But on our end, we can use it as a fertilizer. Diba? When you peel certain vegetables, when you peel certain fruits, you don't eat the skin. It just goes to waste, but on our end, we can use it as fertilizer. So the waste that is being eliminated on the kitchen, we can now use it as inputs for our farms. Then we've served about 52 customers, unique customers, and if you count their branches, outlets, that's more than 100 already. Because we serve the commissary, and the commissary, after preparing, they delivered about 40 branches, 30 branches like that. So there's a lot of outlets we're serving. And I'm happy to say that in less than 2 years' time, we were able to generate 11.9 million already. And we didn't have any investors.
Wow.
So what I'm trying to say is it's doable. Because this is one of the things that me and my partners were discussing a long time ago, that we need to find somebody who can help us in terms of financing. No, we do this ourselves. We bootstrap. So imagine this. Almost 100 families riding on our shoulders for their day-to-day living. Diba? Yeah, next please. So we've got some media mileage also. Last 2023, we got awarded in Malaysia for most homegrown innovation something. Neil was there to take the award. We got featured in MyTV also, and UST even invited us on their Visayas Regional Scientific Meeting. And then, of course, some blogs and some others that you know. So, what should ARCA actually? So, if you can observe in terms of these are the metrics that we look into, the quality, ours is a bit high. Okay, our vegetables are delivered to our customers less than 24 hours from their harvest. It does not pass through the market anymore. So when it's being harvested, processed, delivered less than 24 hours, it's there in the kitchen. It's very fresh. Pricing, our pricing are based on our cost-based pricing. Unlike when you go to the market, if you go today, tomorrow the price is different. No, you have a budget, okay, here's 500. You buy something for our food tonight. Tomorrow you give that person the same 500. Tomorrow he will not get the same ingredients. Because iba na ang price sa merkado. Then availability, because we know the demand of our customers, we already plan in advance. We have a schedule ready, what to plan. So their supply is always there. No? Logistics, well, door-to-door, value-adding, so just like yung garlic. We also supply yung mga pre-cuts. So if you want your vegetables nakakat na on certain sizes or shapes, we can serve that also. So it becomes less hassle for the chefs in terms of preparing the food. Wastage, so we've eliminated a lot of it. Then customer satisfaction. A lot of our customers, they've had suppliers who've been supplying the vegetables or fruits for several years now. After supplying them in just a month or two, we become the major supplier now. Farmer lifestyle. So, we've known a lot of farmers who's been a farmer for ilang years, some generations. Nothing has changed, nothing has improved. In our end, we discovered a new metric of improvement for yung sa local economy. Okay, before, when we see those farms, when we went there, first thing you will see was a cow and some goats. Not many people, maybe one person passing by. But right now, no, in less than 2 years' time, 2 to 3 times a day, shopping goes there to deliver. Because there's an economic activity already. People from different mountains, they go to our area, then every mountains, they go to our area to work during the day, attend to their farm, and they eat together in lunch. So when you go there, you're not only you don't only see an individual, but you see actually a big family of people eating together. So, of course, kusog man ang signal nito. So, they get regular income na. So, they can afford shopping. We encourage our customers to meet the farmers. And it makes our farmers very happy because they can see, mo, din siya so there now becomes a relationship between our customers, the chefs, the business owners, and the farmers. Na to the point, they wala na ilang war o kanang kita ba niya kanang unfamiliarity na the chefs right now are trusting na and more complacent in terms of the vegetables they receive because they met the farmer. And the farmers now, they already know this person will be receiving their crops, so they take better care of their crops. No? So, these people have been coming back, and of course, yung tourism development is now on the works because of that. Because these people, they come back with their friends, they come back with their families, because they not only experience the farm, they also experience the place. So, how does ARCA make money? So, ARCA makes money through the sale of the produce. So, since we do the marketing up to the logistics, no, and to end that, so we make money in between. So, we get around 20 to 30% from the outsourced sales. For outsourced means we get the produce from partner farms. No? Then from farm production, these are the actual crops that we farm. So if you can see, the market is very big. And that's why we can afford also to build those infrastructure for our farmers. Then value adding, so that's how we make money. And then the 3 communities you have developed, then our technology company, our DK company, then give us that. Okay, so that's it for our
How do you guys, when you go prospecting, you go door to door, or how do you, when you approach the restaurants and the hotels, you just walk in?
door to door. We set appointments, we call them cold calling, all
Cold calling.
the old school marketing.
Good.
To add, since we have already served clients, they also refer our
Sure.
product. So it's more or less now
Compared to before.
And then we help these businesses educate that it comes from our farm. So other businesses also goes. Because I'm also a manufacturer, so that's why I built ARCA, because I manufacture smoothies and these things. So it attracts more businesses. Them coming to us instead us coming to
So
them.
right now, it's mostly referral based.
More on because we love our product and we always continue to make sure that we deliver the best quality.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Are you familiar with Chibo? CIBO, it's pronounced as Chibo restaurant. Yeah. It's an Italian restaurant. Nasa SM City side.
Yeah, we have 6 branches.
No, they have 6 branches. So, our logistics partner was delivering food to Fatfo. Familiar mo Fatfo restaurant? No. And Kuan, conveniently, while naa siya sa elevator, naa sa goods niya, ang mga tuwan, napo ang head chef sa Cebu. Looking at her vegetables are so nice. Pwede yung makuha. So, the head chef asked for a meeting with us, then visited the farm. When they got to see the farm, then they made us their supplier there. So sometimes it just takes a view of fresh lettuce, fresh cabbage, very colorful eggplant.
So, now how can we participate in this? We very know that we need to be self-sustaining. So one of the initiatives that ARCA has is to actually create an ARCA village. We saw the timeline. Now, how can we participate in this? We will talk about land that are unutilized, that we can convert into ARCA villages. And immediately expound on our idea of how we have talked about this concept for the longest time now, that farming or the food security or there's already a framework we are able to develop. Now we were talking about, because we cannot do it alone. Right? We need a lot of stakeholders, from landowners to the farmers that are going to be working on the land, and to how can those farmers have affordable housing on those development. And then we also talk about a little bit about agri-tourism farm. So now it becomes a whole utopia, if I may say, na it could address a lot of issues in the community. And we're talking about smart cities. Can start with smart towns, smart rural. Yeah. Let's talk about some initiatives, and then maybe your families or you have places. How can we now participate in this initiative?
I know a lot of you have friends, relatives, or you yourselves, you own lands that are not being used. No? The farm issue there, that's 37 hectare unused land. It's not ours. It's not the farmers. But we got to talk with the landowner, and he agreed na since it's been there for the longest time, unutilized, he agreed that we use the land for the next 10 years and turn it into a farming community. And with that agreement, he agreed not to sell the land or use it as a collateral or any form for the next 10 years. So for our farmers, that becomes a security of tenure. And another upside to that was that we were able to close contracts for plantations. So are you familiar with lemon co?
Yes.
No? Okay, lemon juice. So they actually import lemons. And now they're expanding very aggressively nationwide in terms of branches. And when they did the math, the amount of money that needs to be spent in importing lemons is very high. So they worked with us since we've been delivering their cucumbers. If you like the cucumber juice of Lemon Co, that's our cucumber. No? So they talked to us, asked for some advice, and we provided them with a plantation contract. So we're starting with plantations with about 600 seedlings now, lemon trees, to be planted there, maintained by the farmers, and the contract is 10 years, and they're even asking to make it 15 years. So if you can see, that becomes a guarantee for the customer, which is the company, the Lemon Co, that they will have supply for the next 15 years. And it also becomes a guarantee for the farmers that they're going to survive for the next 15 years. Diba? It's a win-win situation.
Karal manggod sa bukid, the mountains, is that the farmers are not efficient. And they don't know even the basics of farming. So what we did is, we have a team of experts to educate and learn the ways of doing things right. So if you really, actually, we believe in the law of abundance. And I think if it is executed well, it will really generate multiple times. It's just that these farmers don't have farms, don't have land, don't have technologies, don't have anything. That's why, but what we believe is that we have two great resources that we have. We have the land and people. We have young generation. And if we harness that two resources, this country will be very, very abundant also. And it's not yet happening, but we are there to bring it to the next level.
And very, very inspirational, the aspirations of actually from food security. Again, as long as we are humans, we need to eat. We need to have more ARCA villages all over the Philippines. That's aspirations for everybody, whether you're the landowner or you participate in, if you're in the hospitality industry or in restaurants, you will be able to.
I just want to add also with the smart city. We develop the farm, we take care of the land, we plant more trees, we build water reservoir, we control the water. Actually, we don't really participate on this. Our farmers actually, but they are not there, this is not their intention to destroy our land. They just want to make a living. Since they don't have land, they will cut the trees, they convert it into, we call it plant conversion. They plant corn, and then they use herbicide. When you check, if it is a heavy rain, this water comes down here. That's why the color of the water is brown, because of that landslide and everything. Because the water is dead, the soil is dead, because of that herbicide. And then it will flash out here. And it will be very dangerous.
We also consider of having introducing introducing a new technology to the farmers, like example, aquaponics, for example, or other something that we can also include some buildings. Just that we also have collaboration where we design a building and it's also sustainable where people can have their vegetables somehow create them and then we put one design one structure.
Good thing na mention na mo, sir. Our farmers, when we first met them, and I think it will be the same in your case, when you meet somebody who you consider a farmer, you would initially think they are experts in what we do. Well, what we found out living with them, actually we lived with them, is that their knowledge are mostly hand-me-down knowledge from their parents, from their neighbors, and mostly, majority of their knowledge comes from the agents, agente of pesticides, herbicides, and so when you talk to them, most of the information that you can get out from them are this information that comes from these people, who unfortunately they are not more concerned with regards to the farmers' well-being, but more of the
As individuals on this, kasi if you're just thinking about it, everybody has a part to play. Miguel, you wanna introduce the next speaker?
So I'm pretty sure we had a lot of lessons when we went from farming to transportation to other things. So right now, I'm going to announce another speaker for the night. Go ahead. Hello.
BPO company. We are aiming to become, it was like a new location every week. It's an insane story, you guys should look it up. But literally, it was like a massive, fast-growing thing. We've had physical offices in Bohol for 2 years. And so I'm supposed to talk about the future of work, sustainability, and smart cities, right? So for me, as smart city is not smart if nobody has a job. So as AI takes all the jobs, right, which is going to happen, and the companies that are outsourcing in the Philippines are looking to eliminate jobs as quickly as possible through AI. It's happening right before our eyes. But my mission, and what I feel my call from God is to do, is to create jobs, find new things for people to do, so that human beings have a job, they have something meaningful to do, right? So we are currently employing telemarketers. We train them in sales and telemarketing to be able to call into the United States solar industry. So talking about sustainability, we service the solar industry in the United States. We've worked with about 400 solar companies so far. And we schedule their appointments for them, so that way the sales guys can go out and close the solar jobs without having to go knock doors and things like that. So that's our biggest customer base right now is the solar companies, but we're not limiting ourselves to that at all. And that's one of the reasons why this week I'm going on the final pitch to look for some capital just for ad budget, so we can run really nice polished ads and look for companies that will outsource anything. Because anything that can be done on a telephone or a computer can be done from our office. Literally. I mean, if we need somebody to do engineering, we'll just hire them. There's a surplus of educated people here in the Philippines that need jobs, especially in Bohol. There's so many people unemployed in Bohol, so we're able to hire them and give them work. Right now we have 16 employees, and the target is to grow to 800 by the end of next year. And I don't think that's pie in the sky at all. You just need 10, 15 grand a month on ads, and that happens. And so far, we're completely bootstrapped. We've always just used the customer's money to, buy the computers and fund everything. So I'm the only sales guy in my company right now. I find the business, I close the customer, we use that money to fund the operation. It's still really small, but it's going to become large really quickly. I believe that's going to happen through a lot of advertising. And even if we don't get capital from any of the VCs, we'll do it with our own customers. I've got a customer right now that's looking at building an exclusive room with 20 agents, so that'll be 20 new jobs, and that'll produce about 50 grand a month in profit, which will then allow us to grow exponentially quicker with the ad spend. If you want to go to the next slide. Sorry about that. So the problem in the United States when it comes to one of the things that we're experts in is telemarketing, is that it's heavily regulated, and US companies are no longer allowed to cold call basically at all. You're not allowed to auto dial cell phones, you're not allowed to call people on the DNC list. There's all these TCPA and federal regulations that prevent US companies from doing cold calling telemarketing. Well, I'm in the Philippines and there's no treaty or agreement between the United States and the Philippines that allows the United States to enforce that stuff out here. The Philippines has no such law. So we're able to still do telemarketing as long as we're able to do that. The only brakes on that is the tech that stops it, like the spam blockers and things like that. But we have technology to combat that, like the automatically rotating caller IDs. So we're able to still get a high connect rate on a cold list and connect with homeowners. So the problem is that they can't do it anymore if they care about being compliant. But we can do it for them. And we can obtain the one seller consent that the TCPA is requiring them to do. So we can get that recorded call, or we can have the customer to click on a link, giving consent for that company to contact them, go out to the house, sell a solar job, or a roofing job, or whatever else it is that appointment that we're scheduling for. So the solution is, and forgive the AI stuff, guys, it's just pretty basic, but I just wanted to speak from my heart, and I kind of put this together because they asked me to put it together. So, long story short, our solution is that we can still cold call telemarket, and we can help companies remain compliant in the United States through doing it from the Philippines. So that's the good news about that. So what we do is a bunch of different things, guys. So we provide leads. So as much as we are a call center and a BPO company, we're also a call center enabler. So that allows us to enable other call centers either in the Philippines. Formerly in the United States, they're not going to be buying from us much more because they can't. They can't legally do it, but my call centers in the Philippines can get data from us to operate their call center. So a lot of times, call centers that work for real estate companies that are calling, trying to find people to sell their home, et cetera, that's a pretty common campaign. I sell them the data. So I've got like 176 million data points that get updated twice a year. So So we sell a large list of consumer data, verified homeowner data, and I can supply other call centers with that. We also supply solar leads in the same way in a list format. We're also a small phone company. We've sold about 78 setups for that, so people buy minutes from us. So we can actually enable them with the data to do the cold calling and the software. So if somebody in the Philippines wants to start an operation, it's really easy. You just need a dialing software, and you need the data, and you need a client. You can get them to pay you in advance, and then you're off to the races, and you can start really scaling your company. So we provide the software to do it, the data to do it, and really some consulting as well. So we do that, and really that's that slide. So you can move on to the next one. There's pictures of me, SolarCon 2023, some of the solar people that I know, that I have worked with. You know, my passion, like I said at the beginning of the call, is to really just create jobs and get people plugged in. Because I believe that in the Philippines, employment is a good way to get people out of ruts. Currently, employment may not be the fastest track to financial freedom on a global scale, but it can definitely get people out of ruts. And I tell people that come to work for me, you're probably not going to be in my company for more than a couple of years. You're probably going to use this as a stepping stone. Working nights sucks. Nobody wants to work nights for the rest of their life. But the reality is that for a couple of years, you do it when you're young, you learn sales skills, you learn how to cold call, you learn how to interact with people, and then you go on and start your own company. And that worked really, really well. When I went operations, people did that with one of my good clients, you know, to office their own operations. That's not exactly how it's supposed to work. But in theory, that's what is supposed to happen. These people that work for me are supposed to learn the business, go out and start their own companies, and become wealthy while creating more jobs in the Philippines. We go on to the next. So current numbers are really damn good. It's a super profitable kind of business. We're doing actually, it's more than that, but it's about $27,000 a month in revenue, and the burn is only about $8,000 to $9,000 a month. In Bohol, we're paying $17K a month, which is better than TaskUs and what's the other one? IBEX. They start people at $12, $13K. I start at $17K. Plus we give them money per appointment, so we can charge $10.40 per head and be competitive against the bigger call centers or bigger BPOs that want $1,200, $1,500, $2,500 per head. We can charge $1,040 a month to the client in the United States, and we can be very profitable that way. These numbers also include the data sales, the dialer, the leads, and the need for activities of the actual telemarketers and the people sitting in the chairs. We actually have a client that we're doing research for now too, or looking for other non-waste clients. Because again, anything that can be done from a computer or a telephone can be done from our office, anything at all. Next slide. So I want to scale up to 150 employees by the end of the first quarter, and I think this is not only possible, it's just stupid not to. It's right there. The people need the outsourcing, they need the cold calling, telemarketing, and they need the jobs to be outsourced right now because employment cost is high in the United States and to pay for all this different stuff. So these are numbers that we can be at by the first quarter, and then the next one. And we can also then get quickly to 1,500 employees, and these numbers will play out. As you can see, it's insanely profitable. To me, it's the best business in the Philippines. It's PTO, outsourcing, we give people jobs. And it's not just about making money, it's about when somebody comes through the door, I want them to have an impact that will stay with them for the rest of their life. Persuade people in an honest, ethical way, and we're heavy into that. We know that everything is a sale. Our current business model is cold calling to get customers, referrals, and then also running ads. 100% bootstrapped and profitable. It's like Steve C said, he said it last year at Geeks on the Beach, the customer's money is the best form of capital, right? So we've been able to do that, and it's just the simplest business. You get the clients to hand over 5 or 10 grand, you buy the computers, and then you go to work, and then you just roll it. It's just a great freaking business. Our founding team is me, Jesse Brower, 39 years old, born in Missouri, moved to the Philippines 10 years ago, I've gone back and forth. Since then, married to a Filipina, she's not here right now, 3 kids along the way. I've been in sales my whole life. We've got Gina, she's the chief operating officer. She's got about 6 years of experience running another solar call center, so she's like solar focused, energy focused, really great. And then Stephanie, chief administrative officer, who helps to run the whole entire company. One thing I wanted to add before I wrap it up is just we need to be thinking in terms of what are people going to do when AI takes all of the basic jobs. So another thing that I want to set up is like a talk line, and it's an idea that I will implement this month. When I get an idea, I implement it right away. So when I get back, I'm going to start running ads for it. But a talk line, a clean one. There's already enough dirty talk lines in the world. We don't need any more of those. But we'll advertise to age 65 and above and say it's $15 an hour. You can talk, and we'll have talking points. Because how many of you guys have worked in a call center before? You got somebody who's 65, 70 years old, and they want to talk about their pets and their kids and all this stuff. You've already done your deal. You've closed the ticket. They want to get off the phone. The agent needs to get off. The person wants to talk and talk and talk. People are getting lonelier by the minute. They will pay $15 an hour to have somebody to talk to and a friendly, and then we'll have, rules. If they start talking dirty and stuff, hey sir, man, we don't do that. One more time, then we keep their money. It's a simple landing page. You pay with your credit card with Apple Pay. Next, click the button and it rings to our call center. You one of the guys and girls to talk to. So that's another thing. And that'd be a job that doesn't currently exist that we can create, because the emotional connection is going to be one of the most valuable things on planet Earth, and we can scale that. I think it can really trend. So that's what we're looking to do, is plug human beings into employment opportunities at scale, not what most companies are doing. Most companies in the United States right now and around the world are seeking to eliminate as many employees as quickly as possible. So I want to keep the human element and employ as many people as possible. And that's the vision. Any questions for me?
And we would like also to get a finalist from talk about the healthcare sector. So we have Dilio, registered nurse. Come here in front to join the panel. A round of applause for DB. Very dapper. And also to talk about tourism, the tourism sector, the founder of HireGroups.com. Herbert John Swan. Alright, so please join our panel. And then I'll get this chair. We can turn this. About what they do and for the community and the awesome things that they're doing. So I just did give a few minutes for both. Since Herbert, you're beside me, you go first.
Okay, so my campus at Anan. So I'm Herbert. So does anybody know about Red Doors and Oyo? Yeah. So here's HireGroups. It's proudly made in Cebu for Filipinos. So what we provide is the platform for hotels and any also accommodation providers. And aside from which, the platform is to be used to streamline their businesses from receiving bookings from any other channels like Booking.com, Agoda, or any online travel platforms. It transmits to our platform. And aside from that, instead of them doing a manual work, they would rather meet their partners or their clients or guests to create a very meaningful experience to their property. And aside from the platform that we provide, is we also make sure that they are profitable. So we are, I would say, knowledgeable of how the mechanism of the hospitality industry. So we help them to make their business profitable. Thank you.
May gabi sa tanan. Okay naman. What I do is I help people have affordable access to stem cell therapy in a capsule. So basically, what is stem cell? This is the secret of the rich and famous. So only the likes of Enrique, Imelda Marcos, Estrada can afford this. Because when I went to Switzerland and Germany, per shot of stem cell therapy is approximately $1 million. So only those people afford more than maka-benefit sa stem cell. So there is now they call the oral modern technology. So mamutala mga doktor ba, I studied stem cell therapy. How is it possible na take it orally?
because of technology, because we are now in the 21st century. So I'll just run through the technology that make it possible so that you'll have an idea. So from before, injectable sa ugat and sa muscle or sa ilang skin, now it's now possible in an oral form. So we are now at our 7th edition, that is the latest. It's 10 times better than our 6th edition. But iPhone number, we upgrade on that. So our company, just to give you the background, we are a Singapore-based company. We are now visible in all of Asia, and we have expanded in Europe. And now we have just ground launch our offices here in the Philippines. Puno na siya kabog, last April lang. So it's so new, and not everyone knows about this. I'll share a little bit story, okay lang? Is that okay? Big story. When I was in college, as a nursing student, my dad had diabetes complication.
Okay. Anyway, just interrupt us if you have any questions. So, first question for Jesse, what are you most excited about in the space that you're playing and the sustainable energy sector, and at the same time the outsourcing, the future of work? You mentioned the AI earlier, but you have a more positive outlook from AI instead of us losing jobs. Can you expound on that? On what are the things that you're excited about in what entails in the future?
So I'm just excited about creating new jobs that don't exist. Like realistically, as people get lonelier and lonelier, and this is not something that we're doing now, but like I said, we'll run ads this month and test it with enough ad budget to work. But I mean, literally creating those emotional connections with people that need to talk. I think that'll be a hit. And just finding new ways for people to work. And that's why we're training our staff on AI software as well. So not just cold calling, telemarketing, we're having them use ChatGPT to learn how to do everything. But I'm excited about creating jobs and keeping people employed. You know, because again, the big push, when you listen to entrepreneurs talk, you know, they tell you, don't start a business that requires a lot of employees. And I said, bullshit. My business is going to require a lot of employees because that's the mission. I already have enough money. You know, I don't need to make more than what I'm making to be happy. So it's about something else. It's about creating a huge impact in the Philippines and really providing a lot of jobs. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm also excited that the United States is where we get our business from primarily. And there's going to be a huge level of consumer confidence because of the big election that just happened. People will spend way more money now, so they'll be more willing to add employees than they can add. And I don't think, you know, I know how Trump was talking about how they're going to bring the jobs back. These jobs aren't going back. The jobs that have been outsourced are never going back. And, you know, companies are going to continue to outsource. So that's not a concern really, that was just a campaign slogan. But what's going to happen, what has already happened, is consumer confidence is going through the roof. People will spend more money to grow their companies, and they're going to do that through outsourcing instead of paying, you know, 4 or 5 times the cost in the United States. So I'm just really excited about creating jobs and impacting people so that every person that we touch, it's almost like a ministry. Because you get to impact somebody and they're going to take something away from telecentric. When you go into our office, guys, I wish we'd have some pictures. The whole room is painted. In both of our rooms, it's like the sky, and the walls, it's painted like you're outside. We don't just want to plug people into a desk and have them pounding their phones. We want them to have an environment where they can feel positive and get out of depression and stuff like that. That's what I'm the most excited about, is just the human element of my business and working with people. Because that's the most fun and it makes the most impact. What else did you ask me? Sustainability.
Yeah, well, in your major campaign is about solar, right? So,
Right.
Any exciting stuff about
Solar is continuing to boom. In the United States, it took a big hit for the last year and a half because of the corruption and all the lies and stuff. So a lot of solar was sold the wrong way and then got in the media and it took a big hit, but we're still way ahead of where we were, 3-4 years ago, and it's still just increasing. So, I mean, solar is going to be big in the United States, so we can service the solar industry through outsourcing. So, you know, we're not involved in solar in the Philippines, although it would be great here as well. But yeah, for me, it's just about sustainability and keeping human beings employed.
Thank you, man.
You got it.
That's the same question with DB, that in the healthcare space, 10, 20 years, that you can buy a new heart in the pharmacy. Or a new lung. So just don't die now in the next 10 to 20 years. And there's the velocity of technology adoption would just have that, and then you will now extend your lifespan another 20, 30 years. So now, instead of the 75 to 80 years old is the average lifespan of humans, what they're saying in Silicon Valley is that if in the next 10, 20 years now, our lifespan would be 100, 120 years old. So if you retire at the age of 60, that's just still half of your life. What will you do the next half? Right? So there's a lot of implications now. Since in the healthcare space, now you're talking about the nanotechnology and all those stuff. Now before, stem cell was just injected. Like you need to be in a hospital, right? And they would extract in your bone marrow the stem cells and then inject it back to you. So usually these are used for cancer patients, things like that. I see that firsthand in the biggest cancer hospital in the world, MD Anderson, where my brother was when he had cancer. So, but it was a very scary experience. Like you have to burn everything, every cell in your body, so you would now regenerate that back, right? So I don't know I'm not in the healthcare in the health space. But what are you most excited about in the health tech industry, and how the implications of the extension of human life